Alright, hey, welcome back. I'm Chase Johnson Lynch and I'm here for Black on Black. As you can see, my brother here beside me has changed from Addy G to Merv Jones. But I had him on the show earlier and then I said, you know what? You gotta join me here on Black on Black. So welcome Black on Black, Merv.
Hi.
Yeah, okay, fine. This is not any kind of militant Black on Black, Merv. This is just kind of like we just are talking about things that are of interest to us in that kind of realm where we talk about films and comedy or whatever where it comes into. So even though I said we were going to talk about comedians, I think we'll start with the realm that you know of, and that is blaxploitation films.
Well, I know some, but
we've talked about it.
Okay, I'm just of an age where I kind of remember it. I was like that. I won't say second generation, but I was too young to see him at the movies. But when they started appearing on TV, my father in particular would just make us watch them.
Yeah.
Because it's, as with most things, if anything was kind of Afrocentric, which was very rare. Growing up in the UK that time, boom, there you go. You go, Cleopatra Jones is on.
Yeah.
Why are you going to watch this? And so I'd sit back and watch it and watch that. And, obviously Richard Roundtree was a god. Who, by the way, looked...
That's the man called Shaft, yeah?
Who actually looked... it's quite scary. He looked a lot like my father, actually. And dressed very similarly as well.
Really? Well,
he didn't have to like the pants.
Was cool because that's...
my father was, he was cool, but way cooler than I could ever be.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just... that was that. You saw blackface on the TV, you knew about it. And, it was a big deal.
Well, so in most of these films, there was a common enemy, common antagonist, that they always called the man, right? And so there's always like a series of films that had the brothers going up against the man. And so on Geektasm, there was one of my favorite films that we often talked about was Zebra Force.
Yeah.
And Zebra Force.
That's a massive spoiler there, folks.
So exactly. So what was the kind of main plot of Zebra Force?
It was a bunch of Vietnam guys, Vietnam vets who ended up like a life of crime. But there was a huge twist to it. It's one of those movies that you can only see once, in a sense that. To get that impact.
I gotta see that again.
And I think that personally, it's one of those also movies that the more we talk about it, the more we're more likely. Yeah, I was saying there was another show called Love Thy Neighbor, which had the crazy premise of having a black man living next to a white guy.
Oh my God!
How are they gonna get on? But the biggest issue.
Of course, their wives get along.
Yeah, their wives get on. But the biggest issue with that show and various other shows of that time was you may have a character who's like an overtly racist character, but he was always portrayed as somebody who's not very intelligent and would always end up with egg on his face in one way.
Yeah, like Rising Damp.
But the issue with shows like not Rising Damp, but the issue with Love Thy Neighbor is that you'd have a whole section of the audience who will be laughing along with this guy, not at him, but with him, because they're the same.
Because they want to say what he's saying.
Yeah, they're of the same mindset. The first UK black sitcom was around about 1976.
Yeah, well, it was
a show called The Fosters.
Oh right. Wasn't it No Problems?
No, that was much later.
Okay.
And to cut one story short, that starred the late great Norman Beaton and
the guy from Desmond. Yeah.
Years later with Desmond, but of course it's twofold because we also had the young Lenny Henry in his first kind of acting role. He was still just a stand-up back then, but impressionist I should say, but yeah.
Well, but also too is that you had that kind of race baiting kind of scenario going on, but you also had shows like Good Times, which was let's keep the black family down, So even though you could say, well, look, man, black people were on welfare and all this other kind of stuff like that, but it was all about that. So it's like, we're having good times within our misery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it wasn't like successful.
It was less of a race thing, more of a class thing.
There we go. That's what I wanted to
say. And at the time, especially, I could only really speak for UK sort of like comedy at the time. 99% of sitcoms were about individuals or families, etc., that were set mainly in the southeast of England, all from very, very well-to-do, middle-class sort of backgrounds, and they would just it was like the Wacky Adventures, shows like The Good Life, etc.
Yeah.
Where to the Manor Born, for crying out loud. She owned a mansion, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But that was the norm, and it wasn't. There were some kind of working class. They tended to be much more stereotypical. Yeah. Those sort of shows. I mean, it wasn't until maybe the early 80s that Till Death Us Do Part, which became the US version of All in the Family, was one of the biggest shows. It was a rarity because it's that and say Stepped on Someone, you had working class characters in it, but they weren't really the norm. So in that regard. But getting back to black comedy and stuff, yeah, I mean the Fosters was kind of in the UK at least was a novelty. Really was a novelty because although it didn't really have stereotypes per se in it. It didn't really have anything.
Was it about class?
No, well, yeah, it was just another family who just got on and they're crazy.
What's the problem with that, though? Isn't that cool?
Which is fine.
That's like saying we're not being.
But it might as well have been a white family. There was nothing in it. But then fast forward maybe 5 or 6 years later, and then No Problem comes along.
Yeah.
Now, which is way more overtly black.
Yeah.
Yet it shows that black people we have the same sort of problems, but we have a different take on those problems because of the things that we have to deal with in our day-to-day life and stuff. And then you go on to things like Desmond's in the 90s, where not only is it a black family, a black working class family, but it also has a cultural impact as well, because you're looking much more into the you have an elder family from first generation from the Caribbean, etc. Okay, but then you also have other peripheral characters such as is it Matthew, who's the African student, and how that impacts on that. And that's one of the first times on the UK TV that I've ever seen that dynamic playing off with like West Indians and Africans.
Well, because it was like the blacks had to have someone look down upon, and so let's look down upon the African audience.
But then it's the other way around though. You tend to find it's the other way. In my experience.
Well, because he was ultra intelligent then.
Absolutely.
But I mean, but that's what I mean. They always.
But he was also
that was the secret of comedy. They always would flip it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Conflict is comedy. There
we go. Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of that, and like in the third sector, looking at the comedians. We had Red Fox and Richard Pryor and all that kind of stuff. I mean, stand up. This is where, because we were talking on the show about the records, right? So this is when it was okay to have vinyl and not just to have music, but to have comedy. So we were talking about
you couldn't get any other way. So
but that's how we were hearing. Rich Pryor, like before live in concert. There were several albums out and everything. Did you experience any of these albums?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And they were like a bit of a rite of passage. I mean, what I found like with Red Fox, Pryor is really the bridge between the burlesque sort of comedy, which is the world that Red Fox came from, to a much more of a modern audience. Okay, he's definitely the bridge from there, really. Compared to
compared to Flip Wilson.
Flip Wilson, who was much more of more of a clown.
I would give him that because he was TV friendly. That's why I said compared to Flip Wilson.
I mean, a name that we're going to have to say because we cannot avoid it in any shape or form is Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
But once again, he was seen as the safe guy. He very rarely brought race or culture into his act. He just talked about mainly his childhood experiences.
What was amazing about that, right? And thinking of
fabulous.
What was amazing about that, and looking back, is that Bill Cosby was very serene. Like he wasn't loud. He wasn't like animated. Remember Bill Cosby himself? His stand-up special. Yeah. He sat down through most of it.
I saw him in concert in '96.
No, but this is what I'm trying to say. I love that. I love that concert. I think he's
a storyteller.
His book Fatherhood was based on that. But what I'm trying to say is that he, as a storyteller, he just told stories, and they just happen to be funny. But if you come from that kind of a family, there's always like a storyteller in your family.
But Pryor, although initially starting out as what he described himself as, just a guy who just wants to be Bill Cosby in his acts throughout like the early to mid 60s. And then he had that famous epiphany on the stage in Las Vegas where he walked off and thought he basically said, what am I bleep doing here? And just walked off, and then and found himself. It took him about a year, but then found himself, not reinvented, released the real him and what the things he wanted to say. And he was the first guy to kind of like, make no concessions. And he's another storyteller, but he paints different pictures. He's
he paints a wide tapestry.
I'm not stepping into your world, and you're coming into mine.
I think he's more like Pollock. Because he just throws the stuff onto the screen, you know what I mean? Because he does impressions.
But he touches on subjects that nobody was doing. I mean, people say, oh, what about like Lenny Bruce's? Now, what Lenny did, Lenny opened the door. He opened the door, and Richard just burst on through.
But Richard's view was different than Lenny.
Exactly. I mean, for me, the only contemporary at that time for Pryor wasn't fellow kind of like black comedians. It was George Carlin. Who has this kind of white hippie sort of sensibility to it. But he was saying stuff that's progressive. It's just like 40, 50 years ago. And right up until his dying days, he was still doing that. But I would say he was more in line with Pryor than a lot of Pryor's contemporaries. But then you cannot underestimate or devalue the amount of contributing people to Pryor as well. Paul Mooney especially. Paul Mooney, who I think is one of the greatest stand-up comedians ever, who co-wrote endless amount of material with Pryor, not for Pryor, but with Pryor. And it's interesting because if you see Paul's stand-ups, he's much more intellectual in his approach, and nothing like Pryor in that regard, other than the fact that he makes, once again, no concessions. And he will just go for the jugular, his opinion, etc. And I think every comedian out there is, the ones that are worth their salt are telling stuff that reflects them, who they are, and not just trying to make the audience laugh.
So I mean, coming out of that 70s thing where racism was on like seesaw, then you kind of like move into Eddie Murphy and who becomes legendary because he goes from stand-up to television to movies, and no other comedian had done that before him, really. Because even if you want to mention that there's a Richard Pryor movie here or there, it wasn't like a starring role.
No, well, until Silver Street, he wasn't a movie star. He wasn't a movie star.
Wilder.
I know, but what's a classic example? He was brought in as a guest. Essentially, he was going to be a guest appearance in Silver Street, but they liked his material, and the charisma between him and Gene, on screen at least, was so kind of like perfect. They said no, and they rewrote his part, and he gets second billing now. You know what I mean? So by the time Stir Crazy comes out, he's a movie star. He's more. But I've always felt this about Pryor's movies: is they have never remotely come close to how funny he was as a stand-up.
Oh no, because
don't get me wrong. He made some great movies, but
he was always neutered. I mean that's a horrible word, but he was always
the nearest he ever got to that, and it's not a great movie and I know he put his heart on it. It was a movie called Bustin' Loose. And what's the one where he plays lots of different characters?
Which Way Is Up?
Which Way Is Up? Once again, that's an attempt to try and get a little bit more of how he is as a, and it just doesn't really. It's just once again, you either go full on, or you don't.
But then he's better in a guest starring role, like in Car Wash.
He steals Car Wash, absolutely.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I mean, like let me just come on and just do a bit, and then I'm out. But then if I have to like carry this movie, that's what I'm trying to say. Richard Pryor always had a little problem with that. Going on. That's why I said that Eddie Murphy's like the first.
Well, Eddie kind of went down the same route as like a lot of other people from Saturday Night Live, other than like the original cast.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like do a bit of TV and then you start dipping your toe into movies. But he was the first one out of Saturday Night Live to go from TV star. He wasn't even a big TV star, but from a popular cast member to movie star like that. Because not even like Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd or even Belushi, immediately they dip their toe in the movie water, and then boom. So by the time his third movie, Beverly Hills Cop comes along, the audience is
no, his third movie was Best Defense too.
Actually, it wasn't. It was his fourth.
Best Defense was the third movie.
No, it wasn't. It was released in '85. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. This is why we do this. This is why we.
Here's my point. So,
and he never topped his first movie.
Yeah, because I was trying to get to his stand-up thing because once he did his third, fourth movie, whatever, that's when he does Delirious.
Delirious was done between Trading Places and Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, but I meant so he's a star.
He's a star. Yeah, oh yeah,
And then
absolutely.
he goes to stand-up. I mean, because I remember him all the way back when he did that laugh contest before Saturday Night Live, where he won.
Yeah.
And everything like that. So his comedy was trying to be Cosby, trying to be Pryor, whatever. He wasn't his own identity. So now he has his own identity, and he comes out on stage in a red leather suit.
He comes out in the red leather suit. He has a swagger in one fell swoop between that and, say, was it later Raw?
Yeah.
His influence on other areas of black culture, predominantly kind of hip hop, is huge.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
but
huge.
I mean, what I was going to ask you, this is what I was going to ask you about it, right? I tried watching Delirious the other day on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I turned it off after 10 minutes.
Okay, now, here's my issue. I've never been the biggest fan of Eddie Murphy as a stand-up comedian. Primarily because I think he's kind of a 50-50 sort of guy. I think some of his material is absolutely fabulous, brilliant, but then he goes down roads where A, I lose interest, and B, it's just kind of very, even back then, he's talking about gays. And he's using stereotypes and stuff, and it's totally unrelated to the other stuff that he does, and it kind of like, why are you doing this?
But it's the stuff that they be like finding on people now, like bringing us into the present day, like, they'll find old dumb stuff that Kevin Hart used to say.
But he has since then not so much apologized, but he has said that was the voice of an immature young man who didn't know any different then. Okay, that's not an excuse. There may be a reason, this, that, and the other. But I don't know. I think though, and this is also where, on a cultural level, and talking UK and US, by that time, we're talking early 80s now. Me myself, in terms of my comedy. My interest in comedy have become very politicized. I'd kind of had like a new awakening. We had a rise of a thing called alternative comedy, etc.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, that's what they call it. The alternative comedy, and it basically made it known that we ain't doing all that sort of stuff. We don't do that. In fact, Alexis Sale, who was the absolute figurehead of this, he would actually say in his act, I'm not sexist, racist, or homophobic, and if you want that,
you got to find other creative ways to be funny without denigration,
and also have something to say as well.
This is the whole thing.
But the thing with Eddie as well, Eddie, I don't know really. I think he's a naturally funny person. It's just that I don't know. There's a lot of the stand-up it hasn't aged very well at all.
It hasn't. But I mean, coming down to the end again, and you see how fast time goes. But also too is that I had wanted to talk, get your opinion on Dave Chappelle, which you haven't seen, Sticks and Stones.
I can't. The Chappelle show. Fabulous. Exactly.
I mean, because Chappelle went through a renaissance, like you said, sometimes you gotta go away. He went away, he came back, he got his Netflix contract, and like he's been delivering specials for a while and everything like that have been really good. Sticks and Stones was the latest one. I mean, you must have at least heard the controversy about Rotten Tomatoes saying that it was a 0 score. Everybody has because the public, said it was 90. But either way you look at it is that he talks about, icons, that fallen icons, like Michael Jackson and R. Kelly. And like the whole deal is, I just want to get your opinion on the fact of that, like, when do you stop listening or watching people, even when they fall? Does the career before the fall have to be
right? Okay, this has been. I mean, obviously, in recent years, we've had very, very. A great many. I won't call them so much heroes, but high-profile cases of well-known celebrities, be it musicians, actors.
And usually it's like some white guy or something.
But no. I mean, the fact of the matter is, one thing actually does annoy me is this airbrushing from history.
Yeah, we go.
Airbrushing from history, and that I find a bit of an insult to people's intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we can hear a song now and go ooh, 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 but that doesn't deny how we felt at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and also people pick and choose as well. There's a certain well-known British musician who was sadly gunned down, who was a member of a certain pop group, okay, who may even come from Liverpool. Now he did some rather despicable sort of things as a human being. I'm not going to name his name, but he's one of the most famous musicians to ever name it. I'll give you his initials of JL. He's a member of a thing known as the Fab Four. But
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. But the point being is that how come he is seen as the same? Yet there is clear evidence that not just anecdotal fact that he was like he was a wife beater, this that, he was a horrible human being. But he's seen as like he's a lovely guy. Yeah, Ike Turner, who musically was so important in terms of like early rock and roll, etc. Okay, going right back to the late 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's still seen as the symbol of the devil. That which is going to lead me into the funniest thing that Chris Rock ever said.
Chris Rock.
Yeah, so he was talking about the O.J. Simpson case. And he said that the only person he felt sorry for throughout the entire time was Ike Turner. Ike was no longer seen as the baddest black man in history. Yeah.
All right. I can't believe I left Chris Rock out because maybe Chris Rock was safe because nothing bad has ever followed him.
Has he got followed him? Or?
Well, no, but I mean, anyway, what I would just say is, okay, I remember what it was. This airbrushing thing is crazy because, have you heard of the stories of Eric Clapton?
I know stories of Eric Clapton. Yeah, I know. Exactly.
About the racism.
Yeah.
So the point is, Eric Clapton, I love Wonderful Tonight. I love Layla.
Yeah.
I mean, I love all his work. And then when somebody tried to put that story in my face that I didn't ask for, I still was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Stop playing it?
But since when did that?
I think I've heard
in the same way that Roseanne Barr blamed it on her medication. So but what the funniest thing about that is the statement that the pharmaceutical company put out, was saying we have many side effects. Making you racist is not one of them. That's an official statement.
I heard that one. That was good. I heard that one. But this is what I'm just trying to say is that I think being human is being fallible. I'm not condoning anything that anybody has done or does or whatever. All I'm just trying to say is that humans are fallible, and so if you're gonna dig up something on someone, I'm pretty sure they could dig up something on you.
Yeah, but there are limits though.
Yeah. But I'm just trying to say is that music is the thing I'm really talking about. I mean, comedy's comedy, but I still think if it's funny. But what we just said about how delirious, it's a hard watch today. But music
and Raw is even harder.
Well, I don't even bother because I didn't even like Raw when it came out.
No, I didn't.
I just thought I was like, who the hell is this guy think he is? But music, I think that's the problem. It's like when, because I had Bump and Grind on my playlist, and then all of the whole Surviving R. Kelly came out. I'm like, should I? Yeah. And then I had to hit delete or something,
But we also have a system of innocent to prove guilty, and he hasn't been charged with it.
I'm not going down that road, bruv. I'm not going down that road.
Not been found guilty.
It's true, I'm not going down the road.
Whether I'm saying he is or not, I'm not on the jury, so I can't say.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
And you're always going to get people that say, like the same with the Michael Jackson case, when you're always going to get people who, and I remember at the time, were saying, found innocent. Oh, right. Oh, so he got away with it. And it's like, you made your mind up one way or the other.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like because that was around the OJ trial as well. It's like, he's innocent, whatever, what's going on? Yeah, saints.
Everyone's an expert.
Everyone's a saint. But human fallibility is all I got to say. But either way, is that, Merv, this has been a great conversation on Black, man. I mean, we hit films, TV, comedy, and everything else like that, so it's really a pleasure talking to you. You said on the last show that you forgot to mention something.
Did I? What did I forget?
You said something about you had some sketch comedy or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's currently working on the moment. That's not actually been recorded yet.
All right, well,
Here's a very early plug for a radio comedy sketch show called What Not, which is as does what it says on the tin. It's just 40 minutes of very silliness, coming from my mind, and a couple of sketches by an underling of mine known as, who frankly just needs the work, and that's Mr. Colin Hives. But but hey, gotta throw a dog a bone, you know what I'm saying?
Colin, I shoot him for calling you an underling. I'm serious.
Growl.
Yeah, exactly, bro. All right, so anyway, how dare you? All right, so I'd like to thank Merv Jones for joining me here on Black on Black.
Min piacere.
What the hell that mean? I don't know. We out of here.
Sono italiano. Ciao.